Shipbuilding in Bilbao goes back centuries. The Arenal had yards building and repairing ships, and on the Travesía de la Estufa, men were heating tar to waterproof the wooden hulls. There were riverside shipyards all the way from Bilbao down to the mouth of the estuary. And 200 years ago, the most important of all was the Royal Arsenal at Zorroza. From the beginning of the 19th century, the banks were busy with riverside shipyards, including La Salve, the Chimbo at La Vega, the Aranas at Ripa, or the Cortavitartes at Uribitarte. An estimated 1,000 large vessels were launched between 1841 and 1874, but the demand for wooden-hulled sailing boats declined, and little by little, these yards closed. The origin of the Compañía Diques Secos de San Mamés dates back to the 21st of July, 1866, when a group of merchants, Juan Antonio de Ruiguen de la Concha, Santiago de Arana y Anzotegui, Luis de Abaitua y Adaro, Eduardo Coste y Vildósola, and Gregorio Pradera de Maguregui, signed the deeds of a collective partnership in the presence of the notary, Serapio de Urquijo. Their aim was to build one large and one small dry dock for shipbuilding in the place known as San Mamés Peco in the parish of Abando. 1 year later, on the 14th of November 1867, this new partnership exchanged some land in San Mamés with Juan Bautista de Acillona y Andonaegui, and in return, Mr. Bautista de Acillona ceded this same land to the partnership for the construction of the docks, receiving in lieu a plot of divisible land on the estate of the San Mamés Peco farmstead. The installations designed and built by this partnership were inaugurated on the 20th of June 1868, as noted by Teófilo Guillar, on land which still belonged to the parish of Abando, to be annexed to the city of Bilbao in 1870. The installations included a dock measuring 230 foot long and 100 foot wide, and a 285 foot long and 60 foot wide dry dock. The commemorative photograph of the inauguration was taken by Eduardo López Ceballos, otherwise known as Pica Grum, and published in 1917 by Teófilo Guillar in his book The Naval Industry of Bilbao. This deluxe edition included illustrations by the painter Adolfo Guillar, the author's brother, and a dedication to Mr. Ramón de la Sota y Llano, the powerful restorer of the naval industry of Biscay. The Compañía Diques Secos did not repair the ships it harboured, but set out tariffs and regulations for the rental of the docks. All the work carried out in the docks, whether cleaning or repair tasks, was the responsibility of the ship owners who paid the rent. Companies such as the Bilbaína de Navegación, the Basco Andaluza, and the fleet belonging to Messrs Aznar and Sota enjoyed a 10% discount on their contracts, thanks to their continued use of the installations. This encouraged an important amount of activity in the shipbuilding industry and created numerous and diverse firms linked to the work taking place on the riverbanks at San Mamés, in that they were able to establish their businesses without having to invest in their own premises. The installations consisted of 2 parallel docks joined by a communicating sluice gate. Dock number 1, situated closer to Bilbao, was 93 metres long and 14 metres wide. Dock number 2 was 90.4 metres long and 22 metres wide. Both docks were 6 metres deep. A pump house, and coal bunker, as well as a lean-to for storing timber. All the properties belonging to the Diques Secos partnership were sold to the Compañía Euskalduna de Construcción y Reparación de Buques on the 7th of April, 1900. A unanimous consensus between the members of the board of the Dry Docks, at a meeting on the 22nd of March that same year, meant the sale price of 2,150,000 pesetas was agreed on. Specifically, 1,650,000 would be paid in cash and the rest in 2,000 shares in the Euskalduna company. This contract included the sale of the old dockland to Domingo de Mendiguren, in recognition of the boatswain's many years of service in charge of the docks. Were Domingo Mendiguren not to have reached an agreement with the Euskalduna Society, the price was set at 57,212 pesetas. On the 27th of March, 1900, the deeds were signed, establishing the Compañía Euskalduna de Construcción y Reparación de Buques, and the new shipyards went up between the quays at Olabeaga and Churuca. This company was set up with a capital of 8 million pesetas by Eduardo Aznar y Sota and Ramón de la Sota y Llano, its lifelong managers. Alongside Sota and Aznar, the heads of the most important shipping firm in Bilbao at the time, Aznar y Compañía and Sota y Aznar, other Bilbao ship owners joined them as stake owners and board members. The aim was to have at their disposal the installations necessary to carry out repairs and receive visits from inspectors from the Ship Classification Board, required when taking out an insurance policy. Naval construction began in 1902 with a hopper for the Altos Hornos smelting works, built as a test vessel and christened Portu, and on display today in Dock No. 2 of the Maritime Museum. In 1904, 2 tugs were built to serve the shipyard and its steamers. They were the 8th and 9th vessels to come out of the yard, and were christened Euskaldun Bat and Euskaldun Bi. The first steamer was the Nemrod, built in 1904 for the Unión Española de Explosivos. From then on, the shipyard began constructing larger merchant ships under contract to Sota y Aznar. The Sociedad Euskalduna did up and expanded the old dry docks, numbers 1 and 2. Dock No. 1, built in 1868 and designed for shipbuilding, was 100.75 metres long and 16.45 metres wide. Dock No. 2, designed for heavy repairs and measuring 103.95 metres long and 28 metres wide, was extended in 1902 by the engineer Recaredo de Aragon to accommodate more than 3,500 tons worth of ship. While this expansion work was going on Dock No. 2, the company began the construction of a third dock, also designed by Recaredo de Aragon, with a concave end and a capacity for 11,000 tons, 3 times that of Dock No. 2. Dock No. 3 was built in 1902, alongside a building housing pumps for the docks, allowing for work on larger vessels and thus overcoming the difficulties encountered with the original installations. It also had 2 sluice gates, or caisson, which can still be seen today, one of which was the entrance and the other acted as a dividing wall to separate the dock into 2 independent longitudinal parts for flotation operations. When the dock was emptied and clean, and the vessel's hull painted, the sluice gates would be opened and the water would pour in up to the level of the river to gently float the ship. The gates were then opened and a tug would lead the vessel to the fitting quay. The construction of 2 slipways for the shipyards meant a breakthrough for the Sociedad Euskalduna. While vessels were being repaired in the dry docks, the slipways were used for constructing new, much bigger ships. The pump house was built in 1903. It was a pioneer building of its time, constructed using reinforced concrete to create a large open space to house the bilge pumps. These could pump 9,000 cubic metres of water per hour to keep the dock dry. The early steam engines were later substituted for electric engines. For nearly 90 years, the Compañía Euskalduna was one of the most important industrial installations on the estuary of Bilbao. Its premises covered 90,671 square metres, stretching from the quays at Olabeaga to the foot of the Deusto Bridge. In the first decade of the 20th century, its slipways launched the first steel and steam vessels in the whole of the Basque Country. The Maritime Museum of Bilbao has undertaken various refurbishment tasks to recuperate Docks 1 and 2, always respecting their original dimensions. We have installed an exhibition space in this important heritage site, bearing in mind that Dock Number 1 is the oldest civil dock dedicated to shipbuilding in the country. These dry docks are a living testimony to the activities of the shipyard, and as such are vital elements in our heritage and our history, and the true reflection of the way of life of a society.